Ready?
We are good to go.
Nice. I'm excited. Super excited. So, thanks for joining us today. This is the introduction to a whole new platform of podcasting that Alan and I will be doing, and I'm sure others in this future of how we're going to be sharing this ancient healing wisdom with our listeners, viewers, etc. So we're doing this live. We're doing it around the fire again. Just thanks for joining us. And the fascinating thing about this new approach to our podcasting is how personalized that it needs to be. I've always spoken about, hey, you got to go inside, but it's much, much more. There are so many small incremental steps in a thought process that I've never heard anybody else out there break down and explain to people who might be in traumatic situations of whether it be addiction or whether they're in well, these might all run together too, depression, etc., okay, whether it's from physical wounds or dis-ease, whatever it might be. Learning how to process the brain connected to divine intelligence and manipulate yourself into wellness deliberately. So this whole thing about human behavior, this whole new approach, and this is what's kind of so exciting. We had a nice little welcoming for doing this today here, and I've put this off and put this off and put this off, and here we are finally today. So I'm here, and I guess I would say I'm your guide. So I'm Winfield Ivers, and here we've got Alan Mitchell, and so he's been working with me on many different levels over the last several years. And we were doing the previous podcast through his platform, Inside the Raven's Eye, and it was Conversations with a Shaman. The difference between those podcasts and what we're going to be doing now for not just viewers, listeners, but this is for us too. This life is about increase on all levels. If we stop, if we get comfortable, if we decide we're there, things start to work, or let's put it this way, things cease working in our behalf on a positive, powerful level. So we will be approaching each podcast under I don't want to call it a theme. We'll look at it like landmarks in life. I said I will be your guide. I'm not going to be your host, okay? I've been doing this wilderness guiding and all of this for so many years. I just am going to be so natural in my language as to how we go about this. So whether it's, again, in this societal, this developed wilderness or raw wilderness, the process is exactly the same. The environment changes, the resources change, but the inner wisdom, the ability to access ancient healing wisdom to guide you, as I'm saying I'm going to do in this pretty soon. It's like, no, don't utilize, me or these podcasts. Go past that. Start accessing what we're talking about and create a whole new you. Bring out the best version that you've ever brought out of yourself on a consistent, constant basis. And as we shared these stories that are like my experiences that have assisted me in developing success recipes, if you will, ways of doing things, ways of thinking, ways of approaching, You know, I mean, on so many ways, we're going to get to those incremental pieces of stories you may have heard before in the podcast, but not in the small steps that I'm talking about. So the stories, the success recipes, and the way that we're going to indicate how you can incrementally think, it's all broken down and going deeper. Not that it's ever going to be the same stories, but you might hear something similar. So get excited. That's what I want to say. And so,
Yeah.
what are you thinking here?
Well, for
And tell
people,
us.
yeah, for me, the introduction really to you in my life has first started on a herb walk, and then it was around a fire, and then it was through shamanic healing work, and then home and land clearings, and then we'd start doing filming projects, and we would go in the wilderness. And so we've been doing this a good long time. And then it did, like you mentioned, the Inside the Raven's Eye podcast, and then it kind of formulated. We finished that, we closed it out powerfully, and then there was a break. And so I'm really excited to really kind of, it seems like this podcast is going to be a lot more specific for people, of the teachings of earth and spirit medicine to me, because it's one thing just to hear kind of the like little stories here and there, but to break it down like it sounds like it's forming to be. I'm really excited about that, and not just about the shamanic side, but also in regards to the herbal, which is all connected. But I'm really excited to know the stories and know more information about the herbs and things like that. So I'll be joining in just like everyone else, and learning as we go. So that's what I'm excited for. Everyone listening and watching, it's going to be powerful.
So what is earth and spirit medicine then? And, and how do we move forward with that? And when we're sharing our viewpoints together like this, just know that there's already a dialogue that we've developed. So it flows well. I believe with this new approach that people will be able to follow along on a kind of like a storyline, but the storyline will be theirs, I believe. The storyline will be, oh my gosh, this is me, this is me, this is me. And that's what I want to have happen. I want it to be like directed so that it's piercing truth. Truth is absolute. And that's what we want, so that we can live in certainty. So, what is ancient healing wisdom? What is earth and spirit? How did it change my life? So when I was born, the story is that the doctor held me up and I peed on him, right on his face. And so, like, I don't know why he held me up, if he was trying to get me to breathe or something, but I don't know. But anyway, I peed on him. So I, in my mind, think that it would be his face, because you'll hear this part now, because I was introduced to doctors pretty early in my life on a way where they seemingly were taking control, and maybe accurately so. But what is that first thought that we have when we are born? What is that first very momentous, what is that? What is the first thought we have in the morning? What is the first thought when we go to bed? Or the last thought, before we go to sleep, that way, going to bed. What's our last thought? What's our first thought? What do we come into this world with? And then, as I go through, and I'm telling you this about me in this first moment of my life, because I have reasoned out somehow that I must have wanted to indicate something, because I knew that the doctors were going to be a part of my training. But to some degree, I wanted to go ahead and just say, piss on you guys, right off the bat. And so I'm okay with that. Not that I'm not grateful, because you've seen over these last few years partly why we paused and had some longer breaks and things like that. A little bit more of some of that medical feature. And would you say that I've had a profound gratitude according to your observation in that, or would you say that I've been very negative and damn the doctors, or anything like that?
Gratitude.
Yeah. So it's finding those golden nuggets, folks. It's being able to realize what is earth and spirit medicine. What is medicine? To me, medicine is something that's going to help me feel better, kind of thing. So what is that medicine, and how effective is it? And what is it that I'm addressing with that medicine? Because oftentimes our symptoms versus the actual cause are very, very distant. It's like, how do we navigate from symptom to cause, point A to point B? How do we get in the wilderness, from being lost to being found? So when you hear about earth and spirit medicine saving my life, the plants, wow, the relationship with the plants. When you hear about earth and spirit medicine saving my life, wow, that connection with the unseen force that has guided me over and over and over to accuracy. Painful places sometimes, but accuracy always. And so as we talk about these things, and then as you hear how Alan came into the scene, I guess, of my life, and me coming into the scene of his life, and how this has come to a place now where the offerings are not just necessarily mine. He's been living this. He's been applying this. He's been doing this. He's been going like this. And so that perspective that you will have, that's a new viewpoint. That's another viewpoint. I want you to be able to third party observe your life. And so I'm trying to point out, what is it that I got from the earth? What is it that I got from spirit? Why do I call it medicine? What is this ancient healing wisdom? Because it goes back, truth goes back. It started somewhere, and so I look for that. I look for that truth to guide and direct me, but not just be that. See, now, gosh, I don't know, how young am I, 28? So at this point in my life, yeah, I'm excited to do what you allow me to do as a guide to assist you in dialoguing your life to what it is you've always desired. Desire is powerful. So that's kind of how I would briefly say, what is earth and spirit medicine? What is ancient healing wisdom? Through my life, I've been seeking to get better. I didn't like the way I felt. Laying on the couch with my eyes swollen shut as a kid, and being on crutches at the same time, and, and just, can't breathe with asthma, and, so just trying to figure out, watching how my parents and other people, I was always watching how they responded to whatever it was I was experiencing, and how I was responding to what it was that they were experiencing. So when we see this reciprocal effect of life, we can absolutely get rid of blame and, get accountability pretty quick, because we see that we're all an interchange, if you will. And that's like when you get to a place, on your journey from being lost to found, and you get to this interchange, and it's like, what direction should I go now? And then you go inside, because you have to find something that gives you an indicator that says you ought to go that way. And then you ought to have a little hope or belief or something in between there that says, I'm going to do that. And then be able to deal with whatever the results are that come from taking that path, without running back and saying, oh, that was your fault, that was this, that was this. So we're going to develop accountability very quickly through these fire gatherings, if you will. So with all that being said, earth and spirit, ancient healing wisdom, what's your take on that at this point, and what it's been?
Well, yeah, the journey Oh boy. I would say a lot of this is, I remember the beginning, meaning first few years. So it's not like the first week of something like this. So to let people know that for sure. And it's a continual thing, but it is the tripping and the falling. But it's not just getting up from it is, yes, very important, but the review of like what happened and not beat yourself up about it is what I learned about earth and spirit medicine, among so many other things. But that's kind of what's hitting me the most right now is because I've been blessed to observe others too on the journey, and kind of see my observation anyways of seeing maybe people get scared or they get upset of maybe when you have a great way of calling people out, especially when they become duped. So, and sometimes that can be very intense, but what I'm realizing is sometimes you have to be intense in those moments, because that demonic force, they are resilient. They're gonna play every game that they can. And so when you have someone, a good friend, a good teacher, to kind of call it out, and then realizing that it's up to that person, it's up to me, it's up to whoever's trying to better their lives to really go face to face with whatever darkness is trying to tear them down, in a sense. And I would almost, right there, I kind of connected maybe even how you're talking about your parents and observing how you were kind of dealing with certain situations and kind of being really fascinated by that. And I'm sure that so many other parents out there are doing that as well, of trying to like, wow, well, my child did this, and there's life lessons in there. So that's one really big thing upon this path for me is the many times of tripping and falling and getting up, and then, because if you just keep on moving forward, there's so many golden nuggets that you miss. That's what I learned from you, is like, hey, yeah, it's good that you picked up there's a lot of golden nuggets back there of things to learn and to grow from. And so,
I think you just answered that then. Is that the review?
yeah.
Because you said the review.
Yeah, the
And
review.
so the review is the golden nuggets?
Yeah, the golden nuggets.
So how does that work? How's that work? Like what, if you have an example maybe?
So as an example of, let's say that you have situations, like I've had situations at the workplace or even with family, but since I said workplace, it's maybe when you feel as if you are doing a lot of work and you're doing work and work and work and you're trying to help so many people, and then it seems as if maybe I get frustrated or something, or it's just a lot of energy, and it seems like, well, I'm going a million miles an hour. I'm allowing other people's influences to influence mine. And then I kind of, the stopping that you teach, it's like stop. And by me getting upset and frustrated by everybody else's energies and trying to keep up and try to keep things going, I should say, it's like, wait, no, you need to stop. And you need to maybe focus on being more kind and courteous. And if people don't want to respect that, then you reap what you sow, is the way I look. But the golden nuggets is if I didn't stop, I wouldn't notice to be respectful in that moment in time, and not have anxiety pick up or anger pick up over nothing, because it solves absolutely zero. So, and going back to what you said, the golden nuggets of I don't want to go to bed feeling that way. And so that's like almost a golden nugget right there of knowledge for me. So it's like, wait, I don't want to go home. I don't want to carry this energy to my teepee and try to sleep or get frustrated in so many things. And so that could also be in family relationships of an argument and you don't want to go to bed. So might as well stop right then and there and try to find resolve and find the golden nugget, so you don't
Yeah.
so you don't do all that silliness.
Yes, thank you. And so this intense was the word that you used, combating energy, if you will, okay? Not combating an individual, but combating their dialogue, combating what isn't true, okay? Standing to something that says, no, that's not true, okay? That's a perception. Your perception is that this water is pure. It looks clear, but it's not, okay? So, that intense. There's a relentlessness. It is something that you must become more relentless to in order to, as I call, beat it, okay? And you've got to win this, okay? It's not like you're, competing, okay? If there's any competition going on, it's within yourself, and you're competing with this yin and yang, this dark and light, this positive, negative, good, bad, hey, what? So if we sweep all that out and we say, okay, look, the fact is, there's something going on, and I'm not operating optimally. I'm not at my best, and I know it. Right there, and I know it. If we go to but, if that, you're screwed. You've got to continue on that trail of accountability and truth. The relentlessness comes back to defeat anything that is not of the highest and best of love and light. Sometimes that intensity might seem like, oh, that's negative. No, it's power. It's a way of bringing back the homeostasis. So, I said something about what's your first thought when you wake up. See, that's important. And I said something about, and then you commented on that. What's the last thought before you go to bed? You said resolve. So, well, then I said, what was my first when I came into this world? Now think about this. Think about this. What is going to be your last before you exit out of this bag of bones and flesh? Okay? When your spirit exits out, when you transfer, okay? When you remember that you had an opportunity to create a state of being that you could transfer with you instead of a negative one that's in a 3D mortal experience, that's the beating. That's the relentlessness. That's the part. What's going to be your last thought? So you better get it now, because you never know when that time's coming. That's what I promise. You never know when you might. And what was that last dialogue? Because you just took it into the spirit world, and if it's not a healthy one, it's going to take you some time there without a body to get it straight. Think about it. That's the way we're going to go on this. All right. Hope I didn't scare you away. That's all I have to say. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I think that's a perfect way to, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.